Hello and welcome to part 2 of our Camila Cabello racism mini series that we're doing. In the previous video, which you should check out first if you haven't watched it already, I was talking about, her doing what she did, posting all of those posts all those years ago, what I think that means, what I think that real issue is there. So check that video out to find out more. In this video, I want to talk more about the apology and kind of continue down this journey. I decided to split the videos up because I realized it was going to be super long if I didn't do that. And so in this video, we're going to be talking about the apology, which I'm going to be reading and going through, and also just talking about what I feel like the climate is as far as these type of situations in society today. So if you're interested, please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and get comfortable because it's probably going to be another long one and there's probably going to be a part 3. One thing I want to start off by saying before I get into this is the fact that I really feel in society today that there is no room for growth. And I've talked about this before. Regardless of her age, which I talked more about her age and the relevance of her age and things like that in the previous video, right? But now we'll just talk about it from the standpoint of regardless of her age, a lot of these things that happened were, years ago. As far as when she actually addressed this, it had been like, I think 7 years from when she was 15 and younger is when she was doing those things. And then when she was coming out with her apology, it was when she was 22, right? And I think in society, we don't give people room to grow, and it's very problematic. And again, I want to say this again as a disclaimer, and I said this in the previous video. I am by no means saying that what she did was okay. I feel like what she did was not okay, and she should be held accountable. And I talked about how that accountability should have been taking place in the previous video. So please check that out to understand a bit more about that. But I also feel that as human beings, right? As human beings, we have to understand that we are not perfect, right? This is why I'm a lover of Jesus, okay? Because he was perfect. And I'm like, thank God, because I'll never be perfect. And the thought of trying to be perfect, especially in this climate of society today, would quite literally give me so much more stress and anxiety if I was aiming for that. And I really think that's what a lot of people are facing today. We're facing in society the need to, at every single point of of life, be so knowledgeable about everything, have the right perspective on everything. And I just think that's very unrealistic. I think people are on journeys and we've all had completely different individual experiences, right? That can make us either knowledgeable or ignorant to a particular situation. One of the things I find with race in particular is the fact that we all have different experiences, right? I can explain to somebody who isn't black as much as I want to. I can tell you 1,000 times what it's like to be a black person. You will never fully understand because you will never be in the scenario. You never have lived my life. Even as a black person, it's the different black experiences are going to be different. The black American experience is different to the black British experience, to the black African, to the black Caribbean, to the black whatever, and so on and so forth, right? So we cannot just I feel that when we are so quick to have issues with things that people did in their past, right? We completely negate the fact that we are all on a journey. Okay, some people are going to do things in the past, they're going to stick by it, they're going to say a fake apology, and then they're not going to mean it, and that's that. And some people are going to have things in their past, they're going to grow and they're going to learn, and that's that. The truth is, we'll never know. But we're just going to talk about that. We'll never really know because only God knows, because he's the only one who actually sees people's intentions. I mentioned this in the previous video and I'll mention it now. I don't care how believable somebody's apology looks to you. There are fantastic actors out there in the world. As we all know, I'm sure a lot of us have consumed content of fantastic actors. So let's also not be deceived. And also there can tend to be a bias depending on what somebody's apologizing for. For example, if somebody apologizes for the fact that when they were 21, maybe, let's say, and they had nowhere to live and they were homeless, they stole a loaf of bread, you're a lot more likely to, be understanding and forgiving. In society, I feel like, well, I should say society today, I feel, is more likely to be forgiving of that than somebody who was being racist at the age of 15, right? Anyways, let's go into the apology. With that in mind, and the fact that I think that it's unhelpful that we don't give people the opportunity to grow. Let's read through her apology. So she said, and this was on Instagram: "When I was younger, I used language that I'm deeply ashamed of and will regret forever. I was uneducated and ignorant. Once I became aware of the history and the weight and the true meaning behind the horrible and hurtful language. I was deeply embarrassed I ever used it. I apologized then, and I apologize now. I would never intentionally hurt anyone. I regret it from the bottom of my heart. As much as I wish I could, I can't go back in time and change things I said in the past. But once you know better, you do better, and that's all I can do now. I'm 22 now. I'm an adult. I've grown and learned, and and I'm conscious and aware of the history and the pain it carries in a way I wasn't before. Those mistakes don't represent the person I am or a person I've ever been. I only stand and have ever stood for love and inclusivity, and my heart has never even then had any ounce of hate or divisiveness. The truth is, I was embarrassingly ignorant and unaware. I use my platform to speak out about injustice and inequality. I'll continue doing that. I can't say enough how deeply sorry and ashamed I feel, and I apologize again from the bottom of my heart. So for me, reading this apology, I personally feel it's one of the more believable apologies that I've heard. I think the fact that a lot of people are saying, oh, well, she apologized only because she got caught. Sometimes that happens. If you do something to somebody, right? If you've hurt somebody, right? And you're genuinely unaware that you hurt them, right? Let's say you I don't know, you cut the phone on somebody and you're somebody that just cuts the phone without saying goodbye, and that's just something you do, right? And you do that to somebody and it upsets them, right? You might not know that it's going to upset them, so they're going to apologize. That might have happened however many times. You, at this point, they might not know that that was going to upset you. And again, this goes back to what I said about race, especially when, particularly in the Black community, if we're being honest, there are lots of things that we joke about. A lot of the posts that she was posting are posts I've seen myself and laughed at as a Black person from other Black people. I posted about other Black people, whatever. But, you know, I think, and this is why I said that sometimes when we publicly joke about certain things within our own races or within our own communities, we then get upset when another community pokes fun at the same thing. I was thinking about this earlier because I was listening to a commentary, and they were talking about, they were responding to a situation that took place with a trans woman who had been upset with, you know, the Dave Chappelle, the Closer set, which I talked about that in separate videos. And they were saying on there, the person was saying that they're allowed to make trans jokes and a trans person's allowed to make trans jokes, but not non-trans people. To which point I was like, okay, fair enough, right? I certainly would not be out here on a public platform making trans jokes, okay? So, but then what I started to think is I was like, but what happens if I were to laugh at the joke? Do you know what I mean? Like, what happens if I were to laugh at the joke? And it kind of sounds silly if you think initially, but think about it, because me laughing at it is acknowledging that what this person is saying is funny, which could be poking fun in a way that that would be conceived as racist otherwise. I.e., for example, she had Camila had posted, one of the things she had posted was a watermelon and like a little Black boy like looking at the watermelon and looking like he wanted to eat it or whatever, right? If a Black person makes a joke about that and then a white person laughs about it, is that not racist? Because in theory, this is what I'm thinking. That person laughing, right, the non-Black person laughing at it, might then feel comfortable making that joke, because in that environment it was acceptable for them to laugh at it. And again, I'm not saying this to try and take away the responsibility, okay? I'm not saying it to that. I'm just saying this to shed light on another perspective, right? Another perspective. Because one thing that stuck out to me from this apology, what I really appreciated, is where she said, and once I became aware of the history and the weight and the true meaning. And by the way, guys, I'm going to touch on this whole thing with Normani and all of that. I'm going to get into that in depth as well. So please don't feel like I'm not going to address all these things. I'm just going through this in stages. But yes, she says, once I became aware of the history and the weight and the true meaning behind the horrible and hurtful language. Now, the word that stuck out to me there was weight. It was weight. Because I think when we are saying things, it's difficult when you are not living in a particular experience to understand the weight of what that experience is like for somebody else. I feel like that's why a lot of people get very emotional about social action things, because it's something that seriously affected you. It's a big weight for you. But the reason why people struggle to understand that is because they don't feel that weight. And sometimes I feel like what we do better to actually help people understand the weight than we do to just be like screaming, crying for something that they don't yet fully understand. And again, like kind of what she said, the history and the meaning, you know, she's talking about specific things and the hurtful language. She's talking about specific things which suggests that there has been a change, you know, in what she's doing here. I personally believe it. I'm going to talk about this more when I talk about the Normani stuff. Camila did receive a lot of hate herself as well, you know, as far as and I'm not even going to get into that in this because it's going to confuse things. We'll talk about that separately. But the fact that she's acknowledging that there was a greater weight to all of this, to me, says a lot, because that is essentially what we're trying to create with people. We want people to feel the weight of the thing that we are experiencing, and so that when they feel that, we're hoping they're then going to understand why we're making such a big deal about it and why those things need to change. And it goes back to what I said in the previous video, how and who was responsible at that age of 15 for her to know that. Because I'm not going to lie to you guys, today as a Black person, I have to educate myself. I've had to learn, I have to intentionally educate myself about other races to better understand their experience and the weight of the things that they actually go through. I'll give you one example, right? A lot of people might joke about for like, you know, Asian cultures, some Asian cultures, you know, arranged marriages. A lot of people joke about those things and they say, oh, you guys an arranged marriage or whatever. Now, when you are actually the one in that scenario, right, dealing with that, it's not funny and it's not a joke. When you're going to be killed via honor killings and things that go on. I actually knew a girl who I met, a friend of mine. Well, I say a friend. She's more of an acquaintance. She was a friend of a friend. And this happened to her. She literally was in the UK. We all met up, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know it, she's been trying to get forced to marry her cousin. Next thing you know it, they've sent her to Pakistan, right? And told her that, oh, she's just going for a holiday. Turns out it was a one-way trip. Took her passport. She was trapped. They're trying to force her now to sleep with this guy, right? And with her cousin. She doesn't want to. He doesn't want to, but he's kind of going along with it because the family's forcing her. And literally, the only reason she ended up getting free again and back in the UK is because literally the British government actually got involved, and it was a whole secretive thing when it all went down for her to get this freedom and everything. So somebody else joking about the arranged marriages and how, oh, this is the thing, like, oh, they're all whatever. You don't understand the weight of that, right? And for me, that changed the game for me. Since then, I was never really somebody who joked about arranged marriage as such, because I don't like when people are, I don't like that type of control or being controlling, although I think some people doing that are well-meaning. But having that situation, it definitely added a weight for that whole subject to me that I didn't have before, because it's not something that I experience. As a Black person, in the cultures I've grown up in, it's not something that I experienced to a high extent. There's some little remnants of that, you know, in some Black cultures, nowhere near to the extent I've seen, because this, by the way, was all going down in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom is where this was happening. Not even in Pakistan, in the United Kingdom. So when I say that, you know, I think we've got to be appreciative of the fact that people don't always fully understand genuinely. That's why I said it's a journey. We've got to allow people to be on a journey. I would hate for people to judge me today on the things that I thought 10 years ago. Some things even 2 years ago. Some things even 5 years ago, right? I would hate to be judged on those things, because I've made an effort to actually change. I've had to purposefully work to do better, and people do that. Sometimes you don't even know what you need to know until you know it. Kind of like this situation with this girl that I knew. I didn't actually seek out to find out about that. It just happened, but it changed my life in many ways, because it made me realize a lot of things that I had to be grateful for. You know, it made me think, even comparing, you know, me growing up having African parents, right, and whatnot, and just the African culture, African family. I was like, you know what, that's bad, but it's not as bad, at least for my experience, as that arrangement situation and all of this forcing of this and that. that put my life into perspective, you know. So I really feel we got to give people the opportunity to have that journey and to appreciate sometimes the weight of what you're going through. You can't expect somebody to instantly just have that. And I do think there is a big sense of that when it comes to race and different races, different cultures, different nationalities. We're so quick to, even when it comes to black people and internally, I think black people need to stop associating themselves just as black people, because honestly, the black British experience is different to the black American experience, is different to the black African experience. I mean, so many countries in Africa anyway, all those experiences are going to be different. And you've got black people around the world, you know? So even those experiences, they're all different. They're all different. And so again, you may not understand the weight of what you're going through. That's why even for me, if we're going to be honest about black people, when I hear a lot of issues that black people in the Western world have, I don't think that they're that deep, because I'm like, I know what the black people in Africa are going through. That what you're struggling with, at least you have a job, at least you can start a business, at least you can have all of these things that are just normal, you know. At least you can have even consistent electricity in your house. Do you know how in, you know, in some countries in Africa and other places, your electricity can just go whenever, right? So even though it's a luxury even for me to be recording this video and having steady Wi-Fi living in the Western world, you know what I mean, and steady internet, and I want to complain about the black experience. You know, there's black people that are struggling worse. So again, just driving home these points. I'm really going in with this one. I'm giving myself a headache from talking. Let me sip my tea. I'm sipping my tea, but we ain't sipping tea. We ain't spilling tea either. We spilling facts. Yeah, she said she was deeply embarrassed I ever used it. I apologized then and I apologize now. I would never intentionally hurt anyone. Yada, yada, yada. I will touch on this quickly, that I do think intention matters. She says she doesn't intend to hurt anyone. I think intent does matter. Of course, it's not everything, but I think it's something that should be considered. If somebody meant to be hurtful or not, I think we should consider that. I'm 22 now. I'm an adult. I've grown and learned. Even hearing that, can I be honest? I really don't think adulthood even hits by 22. I really feel like adulthood hits at 25. That's my personal and if I'm going to go to the biblical standard of when you really become an adult, the only time I'm seeing God really talking about you going out there on your own is when your parents hand you off to get married, when you become a married person, right? So for me, where we're at with the world is a completely different story. This whole get out at 18 and people like, you need to be out at 18, I think is actually what's really creating problems. I actually think early 20s is the time, probably more than ever maybe, that you need strong, you know, eldership and leadership and wisdom of those people in your life to help you navigate the world at that time. Because boy, there's so many things that you don't get taught about in school, so many pitfalls you're going to fall down into. And it's going to be like, and at that point, as soon as you turn 18, we all know once you turn 18, ain't nobody care about what happened before 18. Now you're responsible for everything and you got to get everything together by yourself. And I think that's also why there's a lot of mental health issues with younger people. I think there's a lot of pressure to have it all together, right? Like the age of 18 and whatever. So she says, I'm an adult and I've grown and learned and I'm conscious and aware of the history and the pain it carries in a way I wasn't before. So she's making a comparison there to say she's aware of and conscious, aware of the history and the pain it carries in a way that she was not before. Again, to me, denotes her having somewhat of a journey. And again, I will reinforce my point that I said before, that, like I said, we don't know if ultimately none of us know. Only the Lord knows if her apology was genuine. But I'm going to talk about it as though it were, and I'm going to talk about it from my perspective, but I'm acknowledging that could be fake, as anyone's apology could be fake, as anything anybody says could be fake, because we can all act. We could all be actors, okay? Those mistakes don't, where are we? Yeah, those mistakes don't represent the person I am or a person I've ever been. I only stand and have ever stood for love and inclusivity, and my heart has never even then had any ounce of hate or divisiveness. And again, this is going back to intent. I just want to talk about quickly, because where she says stand for love and inclusivity, I think as time goes on, as you get older, as you get wiser, the meaning of words, also the weight of the meaning of words gets stronger. What inclusivity meant to me 10 years ago is very different to what inclusivity means to me today. What love meant to me 10 years ago is very different to what love means to me today. And so I think we've got to be careful not to evaluate if somebody's achieving something if they're not at a level that we expect them to be within that thing. It's kind of like how you look at the vegan community, right? And you have people who are vegan. I was watching a video about that. I watched a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. I love to learn. I love to learn stuff. I just love to learn. Anyway, and you know, there was a debate going on because one of the guys was basically saying how one of the people on the show was saying that, well, if you're truly vegan, you should be vegan in all areas of your life, including, you know, the clothes that you wear, the products that you buy, etc., etc. And he was basically saying, you know what, I'm new to veganism. I've been a vegan for 8 months. For me, it's more of a food thing. And right now I'm vegan for, you know, food purposes, which I wanted to get into more of that because I was curious to hear of that. But what I'm saying is, you'll find with things like that, it's another example of you might call yourself a vegan on day one, and then on 6 months in, you discover, oh wait, honey comes from bees, and technically that's not vegan, right? Then you fast forward maybe another 6 months, you're still a vegan. All these times you were a vegan, and you realize, you know what, actually this shampoo that I've been buying, never actually read the ingredients, but first of all, one of the ingredients on the packaging comes from animals, and so does the whatever, you know, like how, for example, I'll give you a quick one off the top of my head, how, you know, some lipsticks are made with using fish scales. Don't know if you knew that. That's actually a thing. A lot of lipsticks are made using fish scales. So it's like, you might not know that. That might take you to a deeper understanding of vegan. You might not have known that being vegan means that you can't eat honey. In fact, I think I told a vegan person that even though I'm not vegan, I was the one to tell them that. That doesn't change the fact that their intention is veganism and that they class themselves as a vegan person, and that's something that they're working towards. And I think that's, again, about us being on a journey in life, is that sometimes you're something, but you're also working towards that thing at the same time, right? It's kind of like the way I look at being a Christian. I'm a Christian, but every day I'm still trying to be a better version of that. I'm still trying to be more, you know, like Christ is the way I look at it, right? As the days go on, and it's the same thing. Like you are something, but you're trying more to be like that. It's kind of like how if you say that you're into fitness, that might start out as, I'm into fitness, I make sure to drink 2 liters of water every day and work out 3 times a week. Then, you know, a year later, that might look like, I drink 2 liters of water every day, I try to work out 3 times a week, and I've cut out processed meals on 4 days of the week. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's an ongoing thing. It's a thing, and it's an ongoing thing. So when she says that she's being inclusive, she stood for love and inclusivity, just because she hasn't just demonstrated that it in the way that we feel is enough, doesn't mean that that's not what she's doing. And that wasn't her intention. That wasn't what she was doing to the level of her understanding at the time. My heart has never even then had any ounce of hate or divisiveness. Personally, I did not see her racist acts coming from a place of actual hate, personally, towards Black people. I saw it more as like, I saw it more as her genuinely just saying things she didn't understand, personally. And there was an element that, I'm not saying it wasn't racist, I'm talking about how the intention came off as far as I was concerned. You know, especially the part where she said that I'm in a group. There was a tweet that was like, and people are debating whether this is true or fake, but we'll discuss it as though it was true anyway, right? It was like, I'm in a group with 4, you know, N-words, obviously referring to the rest of Fifth Harmony. Obviously, they're not all Black people, which again, to me, suggests that her using that term isn't necessarily her trying to use it as a racial slur, although it is a racial slur. Again, being very ignorant in doing that. You know, and then there's even the whole, you know, hard ER thing, which is just, to me, I'm just like, let's just not use the N-word. Let's not decipher between A and whether it's an A or an ER, because then if somebody says it with an ER and they didn't know it was a thing, like, because that happened to me, you know, that actually happened to me as a Black person, where somebody was like, oh, someone says you said it with an ER. I'm like, is that a thing? Is that a thing? Like, I didn't know that was a thing, even me as a Black person. So it's like, gosh, you know what I mean? Anyway, the truth is, where is she? The truth is, I was embarrassingly ignorant and unaware. I used my platform. Oh yeah, I already said all of that. She used her platform to speak out, so on and so forth. Now we're going to talk about, actually we won't talk about it in this video, but with the next video, we're going to talk about the whole Normani thing and the racism and the comment and Camila's fans coming for Normani and being racist. Camila not really speaking up about it, and what that means and all of that. I'm going to talk about that in the next part, because I guess I'm splitting this all up, but it's working. So definitely check out the next part. Let me know your thoughts on this part so far. What are your thoughts on this apology? How do you feel about it from your perspective? If you feel comfortable, share your race and your your where you come from, and how you feel that influences your perspective on the situation. I would really love to know, because I'm speaking obviously for as a Black person, as a Black woman. So I'd love to hear you guys' perspectives from your own race, nationality. Don't forget to, of course, subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, if you're enjoying this mini series. And again, just to reiterate that I'm really not trying to upset anybody. I'm not saying anything just to be provocative. I'm not saying anything just to say things to upset people. Genuinely, I'm trying to actually put logic into an argument, into a debate, into a discussion that I feel has been very emotionally charged, lacking in a lot of just like logical thinking and breaking down. And again, I'm not perfect. I'm not the one to I'm not some big, like, you know, wise whatever. I'm just a gal who loves the Lord and who loves to learn and who loves to try and, you know, do what I can to be a better person and to have a good effect in this world. And so I really feel that a lot of that can be done from us having conversations, being honest about where we're coming from, learning from each other, growing. There you go. So check out for part 3, where we're going to be talking about the Normani factor, bringing Normani into all of this, and Camila's fans and all of this stuff, how they reacted, what Camila did or didn't do. And just to reiterate for the bajillionth time, I still stand by the fact that I disagree with what she did and it was unacceptable. What I have an issue with is that I just feel that there are more things that needed to be done to prevent it from happening in the first place, and to prevent those things from happening again, than just blaming a 15-year-old. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, see you guys in part 3. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment. God bless you all, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.